there! Welcome to this video that's all about how to do the Paris stitch. You can see that my thread is anchored with a waist knot, and I have my needle and thread to the front of the canvas in the place where I want to begin stitching. So, ready to get started? Terrific! First thing I need to do is to count up 4 canvas threads, because the first stitch in this unit is going to be a vertical stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Take your needle through to the back and pull until the stitch lays smoothly on the surface of your canvas. Then, to work the next part of this stitch, because each stitch unit is comprised of 3 stitches, I'm going to come back up in the same hole that I just started in, pull my needle through to the front, and I'm going to work a second stitch right beside that one in the same hole. So you can see now I have 2 vertical stitches that are side by side, and to finish this unit off, what I need to do is come over to the side, 1 canvas thread to the left, and then drop down 1, 2 canvas threads, bring my needle through to the front, and then count over 2 canvas threads to the right, 1, 2, and take my needle through to the back. And that actually anchors that stitch down, or ties that stitch down, because this is a tied stitch. It's considered a tied stitch. You know, there's several different kinds of stitch families, and this is one that's a member of the tied stitch family. Now, if we want to work another unit in the same row, what we do is we're going to hop over to the right, 2 canvas threads, 1, 2, and that's 2 canvas threads from where we took our needle through to the back in the very beginning. So that's 1, 2, and bring your needle through to the front. And you can see I'm keeping a little bit of tension on the back of the canvas, or with the thread in my left hand, or my non-dominant stitching hand, so that this little stitch right here doesn't get too loosey-goosey. All right, so now I'll pull that, and I'm keeping tension on this thread the entire time, because I do want to make sure that these stitches lay nice and smoothly on the canvas rather than getting too loopy. So let's count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Take your needle through to the back, and then do that same thing again. Come back up in that same hole, pull your needle through to the front, and then back down in the same hole that you just worked that stitch in. And this stitch, the tie down stitches, are going to share holes. So I'm just going to come up in that hole that I took this last tie down stitch to the back in, same hole, and then I'm going to count over 1, 2, and take my needle through to the back. So this really looks like kind of an elongated plus sign. Okay, now let's do a couple more just for good measure. Count over to the right, 1, 2, whoopsie, bring your needle through to the front. Y'all can see I'm kind of ambidextrous here. I switch back and forth. All right, let's count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Take your needle through to the back, and then again bring your needle through to the front in the same hole that you just took your needle, that you just worked that last stitch in rather, and we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4 again. So we're working 2 stitches side by side in the same hole. Then we want to come up, share in a hole with that last horizontal stitch that we just created to tie down the second stitch unit, because each one of these 3 stitch composites is considered a unit. Take your needle through to the back, 2 canvas threads over to the right, and there you have 3 of your Paris stitch units in place on row 1. Let's do one more. All right, count over to the right, 1, 2, whoops, 1, 2, there we go. Bring your needle through to the front, then count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Take your needle through to the back. Again, bring your needle through to the front in the same place that you just took that last stitch. Count up 4 again, or just place your needle to the back in the same hole, but it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Take your needle through to the back, and then to tie that stitch down, find that shared hole from the last tie down stitch in unit number 3, stitch unit number 3, and bring your needle through to the front. Then count over to the right, 1, 2 canvas threads, and take your needle through to the back. And there you have 4 stitch units, 4 Paris stitch units worked in a single row. If you wanted to work a second row, what you're going to do is you're going to go down 2 from this hole right here. So we're going to go down 1 canvas thread, 2 canvas threads, and over to the left 1 canvas thread. Bring our needle through to the front, and then we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and actually this long stitch is going to share a hole with the short stitches from the first row. Again, work another long stitch for step 2 or stitch 2 in the first unit on the second row. And then it's easier to count from the bottom up for this portion, but you're going to see a little trick that's going to make it super easy for you to really fly with this stitch if you choose to use it on one of your canvases. So we're going to hop over here to the left, and we're going to come up 1, 2 canvas threads. So here's 1, and then here's 2, and you see that the tie down stitch is going to share holes with the long stitches in the first row. So all of these are going to mesh together really neat, and it's a nifty little trick here, because the second row being worked across from right to left is going to fill in the gaps that were created by those canvas threads that we skipped in the first row. Okay, and again we're going to skip 1, 2 canvas threads because each unit has 2 canvas threads between it. Then we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, which shares a hole with those little short stitches. Work another long stitch. Take your needle through to the back. And then again, you can see that we count up 1, 2, but we really don't have to do the counting here because we can use the visual cue of making our tie down, our horizontal tie down stitch, share holes with the long stitches in the first row. Okay, and let's do one more. Count over to the left 2 canvas threads, and then take your needle to the back, sharing a hole with the horizontal stitches in the first row, or up 4 canvas threads if you prefer to count. And then another stitch right beside that one that we just finished, and tie it down with that horizontal stitch, counting up 2 canvas threads or using the visual cue of the long stitches, the base of the long stitches from the row that we just finished, and go over to the right 2 canvas threads and tie that stitch down. Alrighty, my friend, that is how you work the Paris stitch. It's super easy, and I hope you have fun working it on your canvases.